Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Rollwise Show, the place where we talk about things related to gaming and games and stuff like that. So today, we're going to actually be broaching a topic that is interesting, in so much as that it's something that probably doesn't get talked about a lot. But I was surfing around on Reddit, and there was a blogger named Jimmy Wazir, or add your own inflection onto that, however you'd like. And he wrote an article about GM burnout, kind of the creative endeavor when it becomes hard to really engage with it. And so I thought it would be interesting to at least use the article as a launching off point to discuss a little bit of our own experiences with burnout. What do people do with it? What have we seen? Because maybe you've experienced burnout, either creative or you've experienced it from a job perspective. I mean, there's a lot of ways in which people really hit the end of that wick, one could say. So before we really dive into the actual our stories and talking about this in more in earnest, I thought it would be nice just to make sure that people are on the same page about what burnout is. And so I think just a real quick definition. First and foremost, creative burnout isn't just really being tired. It's really kind of when your well has run dry. It's a mix of exhaustion, loss of motivation, even resentment towards the things that you normally love. Psychologists describe it as a state where your creative energy feels depleted, and even taking small tasks feels overwhelming. And it is important to say that burnout is not a weakness. It's a natural response when your passion collides with pressure. GMing, especially and GMing and playing, both of those are creative work, emotional work, and social work, all rolled into one. Hopefully, it's all those rolled into one. And that's quite a bit for any person to really juggle, especially if you try to do this multiple times a week, or as regularly as we do it. It seems to be. And
Professionally.
while we're and while we're not mental health professionals, I would like people to know that is that we are not psychologists or certified in any of those kind of ways. I wanted to make sure that we all acknowledge that burnout feels heavy. It's okay to reach out for support. Talking to friends, fellow gamers, or if necessary, therapists can make a huge difference in your life in this regard. So there are resources out there. I know that we have people that watch us from all over the place, so I can't necessarily cite any specific resources, but there are mental health hotlines, counseling services, and even communities where people share their experiences. And if you're listening and thinking any of the things that we described today, this is me, then maybe you should go check that out. It's not a bad idea to kind of get a load off your chest and say, hey, maybe some of this stuff will help you. Hopefully, because all I can say is burnout. You may not realize you're burned out at first. So I guess let's kind of jump into our experiences with it. What does burnout look like for you guys? I've got my own definitions and my own experiences with it, but I'm curious, when have you felt it? What did it look like? Did you feel it at work, in game, all that kind of stuff? Jeff, what about you?
I think I've felt it both at work and socially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really stop caring. I pull back into myself. I It becomes a struggle to do anything. If I have to do something for the game or have to do something for work, it really becomes last minute. I will put it off until I absolutely can't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's kind of a cold, lonely place. It's not very much fun, and I think you're right. I don't think when I've experienced it, I don't think I fully embraced it as burnout at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a good place to be, and I'm not going to say that anything regarding mental health is an easy fix, but it's an easier thing to talk about than a lot of other things that are happening to people.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's got comes to the game group, because it can just feel like your social battery is a little drained. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've all got that. Like I don't want to interact with anybody else. I'm going to go home, kind of thing.
Well, and I think it can
Yeah.
be a sign of for everybody out there, it can be a sign of a bigger problem. So,
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
just be aware of it. When you start experiencing those things, find somebody to talk to about it at least.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, talking to the people in your game group, like, I think I need to even sometimes just taking a break for a little bit. Doesn't have to be a 6-month hiatus, although it could be. I don't know. You know, everybody's different.
Mhm.
But, I know that not talking about it doesn't make it go away.
Yeah.
For
And
me, it didn't. Okay, I'll say that.
yeah. No, it's true, and I have to say that a lot of times, and maybe just me and our friends, we I don't know if we necessarily seem like the suffer in silence type, but I can say from my own experience, there was a lot of times in which I experienced burnout from a work perspective, and it was to suffer in silence and push through it because that's just kind of what I had been told to do in my life.
Well,
So,
work is different because it's something that you feel like
mm,
you have to do. Like, you
mm,
have to make a living most of the time, and if you do, it's something you just have to kinda grin and bear it. So burnout with work is quite a bit different than, in my opinion, than, say, like, GM burnout or creative burnout, because creative burnout and GM burnout is based on something that you are doing recreationally. Um,
mhm,
and the thing I would say is the moment anything you love starts to be something you dread, like, if you
mhm,
wind up in the middle of like, the night before, you are have your game and you're like, "Oh, I really don't wanna run the game tomorrow," you should look at taking a step back. Either, stop running the game, suggest somebody else run something, a couple one shots, or, take a player role, or step back from the game entirely because the it's definitely not working out for you.
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, no, and that's actually a good point because I have to say that, like, personally, burnout for me is that it exactly as you described, Brent, is that there's that little bit of dread that happens. And, we could talk about burnout archetypes maybe a little bit later after we discuss some of the finer details of the article and stuff. But when I was looking up things that were like related to burnout and like talking about how it is, because they're what's interesting about burnout, regardless of which aspect of your life is, they're definitely like overlapping aspects of it. And so like with the one kind of burnout that I thought was interesting from an archetype standpoint is the procrastinator burnout archetype. Is that, to your point, it's just like, it's not necessarily dreading it, but I put it off last minute. And then all of a sudden it's like that mad rush to,
But what
try to
I'm
do
saying is
something.
you will dread it eventually if that's what you keep
Mhm.
doing,
Well,
No,
because
yeah,
yeah. And
what'll
eventually.
it's,
happen is the quality of the work will go down and your
yes.
enjoyment
Mhm.
of it'll go down, and so eventually you will start dreading it. However that
Yeah.
manifests, you'll start
Mhm.
hating doing it. Um,
Yeah.
and I try to be very aware of when especially if it's something I love to do, I try to be incredibly aware that if you start
Mhm.
hating something you love, you have to do something then, because if you don't, you're gonna hate it forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
Yeah,
Very
and more
well.
my point, it wasn't necessarily that it turned into hate it from a dread on the upfront. It's just more I would kick myself on the back end, right? I wasn't kicking myself in the front end. I was kicking myself on the back end, saying like, "Oh, that session sucked." Oh, and especially if you have like imposter syndrome, where like you don't, you just like feel like you don't really do a good job at whatever you're doing. You're just like, I guess it was terrible. Everybody, I don't know if I'm good or not. And then you just kind of like put yourself in this place where you're mentally numb and then you try to do it again, but and it's a bad cycle. Let's just say it's a really
yeah,
bad
and it's
cycle.
a cycle that'll eventually end, and you will dread that game eventually if you're not doing any prep or anything, and unless you're Superman and you can make stuff up really really aptly on the fly. Um,
Super
Unless
improv.
that's the type of person you are, you can not prep, but if you're not that type of person, I'm not, you will what'll happen is eventually you'll say, "Wow, I ran that game really bad," and that cycle of saying that to yourself will make you
Hmm.
hate what you're doing, and you'll just stop playing. Like, you'll
Hmm.
stop.
Yeah. No, I think I think it's definitely true. And so I think it just depends on where you're coming from, especially if you're doing any kind of creative endeavor. And I feel like the reason why this is more of a GM focused article and stuff like that is that, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like players maybe bring a little bit less baggage to the table than the GM does. I feel like there's a little bit heavier load depending on how
Yeah.
you frame it.
Well, yeah, a
Because
player
in
doesn't have to do There's
as
work that they
nearly as
do,
much.
but they don't do as much. Like, I was
Mhm.
talking to somebody about, I think we were talking about it, the no prep GMing and stuff, and, like, that's really hard of a concept because, like, you still have to get NPCs ready and stuff like that. Like, if you want a monster or a big bad evil
Mhm.
guy, you still have to make prep stats and stuff like that. You can't just make those up. I mean, you could just make them off the top of your head, but I don't know if it's gonna be convincing or not.
Or
So,
sensical, you
yeah,
know?
or
There
sensical.
may you
Sure,
you
he hits AC 20. Sure.
sounds like it should hit.
You got him. Good job. Roll some dice.
He I decided he has
Oh, he
an
takes
armor
some wounds.
class. Yeah, and he's a grizzled. He's very grizzled. Every one of my NPCs that I haven't thought about is grizzled.
Forever grizzled.
It's like what happens when you forget to give your NPCs names because you know your players are going to immediately ask the name, and you're like, I don't know, his name is Bob. Oh, you
Stiggins
didn't
the
you forgot?
goblin bartender becomes the most interesting character in the world because you made him up without thinking about it.
Yeah, and it worked. It worked in that one case. Yeah, so I think really, if you dread, like as Brent said, you dread, your upcoming game, you don't actually look forward to it, you don't really love that where you're going with it. That can be it. If you feel drained, exhausted emotionally, um, like Jeff was saying, or you just procrastinate. You don't feel you just for whatever reason can't work up that motivation to get to it. I mean that's just a few facets of the ways in which your creative, kind of your burnout can represent itself. And that's, I mean,
And
I feel like,
I think GM burnout, as far as creative burnout, is a little bit heavier just because it involves other people. Like,
Mhm.
you quickly feel like you're disappointing other people, which adds to the burnout. Um, it's not just writing, it's just not staring at a blank piece of paper. It
Yeah,
is it is that
it's not
too,
just creative block.
but
Mhm.
it's not writer's block. It's different because other people are depending on you, for entertainment, basically, essentially. It'd
Mhm.
be like getting a stand-up comedian getting on the stage and just standing there for 15 minutes, their whole set, not being able to
There are
tell a
some that
joke.
have done that. I believe Andy Kaufman used to read a book.
It's true, he did do that.
He was
But
trying
see,
to do something.
exactly, he was expecting to, I believe he also, died, and that's I believe the audience was not into him reading the book, and that's what he wanted, is
No,
he
but
wanted people to
that's what he
start
wanted. He
leaving.
wanted the negative
Yeah.
reaction.
So if you wanna run a game and piss off your players, sure. That's different though, because 'cause you're
Like,
gonna have fun.
I think that's a start playing
Yeah.
professional GM. Hey, pay me to take
Make
you
you
to a
hate me?
dungeon.
Make you
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
me?
You're going to hate this game. It's like one of those marketing ploys where you're like, you're going to hate this game. And then when they walk away hating it, you're like, not false advertising.
No, false advertising. That 4 hours we played, absolute misery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, there's just a disproportional amount of work in a role playing game put
Mhm.
on the
And you've
GM.
voluntarily taken that upon yourself as a
Yes.
GM. And so
Yeah.
that hobby is important to you, and so that's where I think the kind of pressure builds a little bit. So,
So speaking of work, I think this is kind of interesting because that could be a good segue into the article a little bit because they talked about areas in which the burnout comes from and everything like that. And one of the first things that they mentioned was work overload. Um, and so like too much prep, trying to build an entire world with all its moving parts, blah, blah, blah. You know what work overloads in terms of GM looks like. But what is the most prep that you've ever done that absolutely wasn't worth it? Boy, I got some rock stars in this category.
Yeah, you guys have done more than I have, so my answer is going to be pretty short. I think I think one of the first times when I GM'd, when I was still young and hungry and like I want to create my own world and my own vision, and I really tried to railroad the players to make them do the things that I had written, like to follow the plot, right? Like it was like I had written a story and they needed to follow the plot, and they weren't having fun and I wasn't having fun, and I didn't fully even understand what I was doing at the time. Not to excuse the behavior. Railroading's not a great behavior for a GM, but
Mhm.
I had never done it, and that's what I kind of did, and that's one of the reasons why I don't GM a lot. I don't have a lot
Mhm.
of fond memories.
it depends on the situation as whether or not
Sure.
railroading is okay. Some players don't mind it, and
I
some
think
players,
judicious use of it works. And some players don't. No,
I just
some
think,
players just want to smash stuff, and you just keep throwing
yeah,
it. Yeah,
I just think
sure.
I just think everybody says don't do that, and quite frankly, I think that's not the right way to approach it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And there's a way you can
I can
use
agree with that.
railroading. You can use railroading correctly to where, like,
Mhm.
I mean, if they don't know that they're being railroaded, um, then it's fine.
I don't think I was. I don't think
Well,
I was successfully executing that
there is
maneuver.
a way to do that. I have done that in some games where there was a choice, but it wasn't really a choice. That I
Okay.
knew the results either way. The most amount of work I've ever done that wasn't worth it.
Mhm.
I usually stop playing before I get to that point. If
Mm.
I feel like the work is wasted time or anything like that, I usually don't get there. I don't. I only One of the ways that I think I avoid feeling burnout is I really, when I prep, I don't prepare a whole world. I prepare what the players are going to see and interact with, and I
Mhm.
don't do any more than that because there's no reason to do that. And then if I have to make something up, I make it up on the fly and then take a note about it. And the world kind of builds organically that way around what the players are asking or what the players have come up with.
Mhm.
So I try and I feel that's actually a little more railroady than sometimes just than just making them follow a story arc where it's I have this giant world, I've paired these pages of backstories, and I'm going to make sure I read all of it to you. Whether or not you want me to, whether or not you check out midway through, you're going to hear why this village has a temple that has 37 priests exactly. Like I'm going to read all of that to you. And I, as a player, sometimes that's tough for me, so I don't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, no. As a player, a ton of exposition is rough to deal with. It really is.
Yeah.
Can be.
But if you
Well,
just give it to the players, most of them won't read it either.
Exactly. If
mhm.
you type 16 pages and say, "Here, you guys should probably read this," I strongly feel that they probably won't. Um,
Some won't. A lot
aga
won't. I
Again,
think.
I'm a GM and I am a shitty player when it comes to that. I'm not super good at reading reference material, but I try and keep the idea of what the world they're going to see in the world localized to what is there, because
Mhm.
Okay.
I feel like in the real world, like I know about China, but I don't know details about China, so I try not to get bogged down in minutia,
Hmm.
I guess is what I'd say.
Well, um, you that sounds like a much healthier way than what I used to do. It's good, and honestly, I think that there's a time and place for a creative outlet such as world building. If you've got the energy and it's interesting to you and it's something that you like, then have fun with world building. I the time that I feel that I can recall from recent history in doing this, it is exactly as Brent says, is that there was a bunch of world, and I wasn't going to make everybody read it, but I had basically got down this rabbit hole where I was researching about how did the Third Reich end, or how did the Reich end, and all the Germans went down to South America, and then there was also Confederate people that went down to South America for some reason, and it's like, and it's if you just start looking at the actual history of the world, I thought it would be really interesting to try to incorporate that into a Delta Green game.
Oh,
Um,
the bowling game.
yeah, the bowling game. The problem is that, and this kind of actually hits uh, two things here, is that I was hoping to figure out how to run a Delta Green game, and I was going to kind of make it sandboxy and everything like that. But apparently, I didn't really understand what I was missing because I had created all this lore, but I forgot to create like the hooks really for you guys to play with. And I feel like the game pretty much immediately after like getting stress tested turned in the game that I didn't think it was going to be. And I was like, I don't know if I'm as excited to play that game. And we fizzled out on that game
You
pretty
mean the
quick.
game where you were like, "Are you guys going to go investigate this?" And I'm like, "I inherited this failing bowling alley, and
We
I
gotta
can't leave the bowling alley.
we gotta
I
take care
have
of
to
this
go back
bowling
to the
alley.
bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't afford
Uh,
employees."
Yeah. And
that's a case of first contact. First contact with the enemy did not go as planned. Which
And I don't even think we were trying to derail it. It kind of
No,
felt
no.
like that's
no.
what.
It just I had like and this is where that over prep came from. I had like prepped out this like, oh, I'm going to get them into the Delta Green and everything is good. And I had like plotted 17 steps ahead, being like, well, I'll just let it organically happen. No, it organically did not happen, and the game turned out to be something that was not what I was expecting. Not to say that we couldn't salvage the game, but it just didn't like the enthusiasm. I was like, oh well, I don't know where
Well,
this is going.
okay, I do have an example. I was playing a game where two characters became infatuated with a painting in their apartment for weeks, and I had not planned it. I had planned it on just set dressing, and it became the core of the campaign for like 2 weeks. That was an interesting development, but I sort of plan for that stuff. Like I enjoy setting up situations where the players just go with it and letting them like pick what's interesting. Like if they want to run and if I do, yeah, it's pretty disappointing if I don't do that. Again, I will point to the game way back in the day where they defeated a monster in an opera house, and then we're like, we got to run this opera house, and they're like scheduling like show times and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
and that's one of those things. Like, I guess this game is now about running an opera house. Like, how is that this game?
Okay,
Uh,
okay. At the risk of insulting people that I know, were you playing with a bunch of theater kids?
we ran the Shadowrun game that
Mhm.
they found a bundle of drugs that somebody was hiding, and it turned into Sim Drug Dealers, which was a game that I wasn't comfortable playing.
Mhm.
I'm not going to let you guys sell drugs to people because that's pretty bad. So I was like, I can't run this game is what I told them. And that game stopped just because, yeah, it wasn't going to be fun running we're selling this massive cocaine that we got to street people.
Well,
Yikes.
and that's another type of burnout that the guy discussed. He discussed values conflict, right? Where the game that ends up being played is not the game that you want to run. And so since it's not something you really want to run, then it becomes a slog doing it.
Yeah.
Like let's say your players absolutely
Well,
love
just don't
playing
do it.
sim drug
Just don't
dealer.
do it.
Well, and that's what you should do. But there's a lot of people that feel kind of socially obligated that they want to run a game and their friends are trying to play a game and and the friends are having fun, but they're not. And so it's like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Sometimes, yeah, no. There's been times where I don't want to be the
Mhm.
wet blanket, even though
I
I'm
would
not
remind
fully on board.
everybody that your role as a GM is to have as much fun as the players. And
Mhm.
if you're not
I like that.
enjoying the game, you should pull ripcord. You should bail out and pull your
Well,
parachute.
but
Because
you did the right thing. You talked to them and said, "I
Mhm.
don't want to do this." Like
right. But
you're
I'm
an
Yeah.
just saying
example.
you at least need to talk to them about it and say we need to change the course of the game. And if they say
Mhm.
no, that's when you pull. And that's kind of what we did. Is I said I don't think I can run a game where you guys really going to do
Yeah,
this in the game?
sure.
And they said yes, and I said then we should switch games.
Then I'm done.
Either this is a
Yeah,
game that
we'll play something else.
I can run something else, or somebody else can run something else, but this isn't a game that I can continue playing
Mhm.
because I don't think it's going to be that much fun for me setting up drug deals every week.
Yeah. Well, and you never know. And sometimes and sometimes you get surprised by your players. I can definitely think of some times which I know Brent was not expecting my character to behave in a certain way, and I may have surprised him. I can't think of any off the top of my head,
I
but
can.
you can.
The fascination with the painting for one, like in the previous mentioned story.
I believe that
Uh,
was not me, but that was the other guy that
I
really.
believe you bought into him being fascinated with the painting
Well,
pretty quick.
he was very convincing that something was happening. I was like, whatever, Bugatti, like, and then he was like, this painting is really important, and I was like,
Sure, I'm
all
all in.
right, yeah,
You need me to
I'm
order a
all
Geiger
in.
counter? Sure, I'll
Yeah,
order a Geiger counter.
I Amazoned a Geiger counter because that's
I'm
obviously
almost sorry I missed this game.
it was a really wild game. It went through a couple permutations for the other player's character.
It was one of Brent's Gonzo brain vomit games. It was a over the edge game, so it was one of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense how the picture became the focus. It actually does, as many times as I've heard parts of this story.
Mm-hmm.
It
Oh, yeah, it
does,
made perfect
especially
sense after
especially
it
at Over the
happened.
Edge. It
Like,
100% makes sense.
I totally understood how it happened, but I wasn't ready for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. No, that's fair.
And sometimes, trying to anticipate your players' moves can be very difficult. So I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have my own set of examples for just our current party that's playing on our home game.
Herding cats. That's what you need to remember.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously, you guys staying at a different inn it's not a big deal. Obviously, what was the other thing that was kind of funny that happened? Oh yeah. So we just finished up last voyage of the Ghazali, and they were very good about making sure that they. So just so you guys are aware, the funny part is that the adventure kind of is written from the idea that, and spoiler alert, that you take a home base in one of the locations. So there's a significant amount of content
That we just
around one of
blew past.
they didn't stop there once, and so there was a lot of over prepared work that I did that ultimately didn't see the light of day. Back to the first one, and so it's like it happens. Players are surprising.
Players will always do the thing you don't expect. That's
Yeah.
And especially if you say something like the phrase sandbox, like talking to your Delta Green game. I remember the parts of the game that we played as being really fun, but the moment you say
having fun with it,
the moment that you say sandbox, expect the players to do the last thing you expect, because they expect to be able to do whatever they want, as opposed to, I have this story, we're gonna go through this story.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this adventure.
And I personally kind of thought of that one as kind of an interesting, like, I was hoping to have like a meta plot in the background that was happening and kind of running it that way. But I'm not very good at sandbox games. It's one I want to get better, because I think it's, as you said, herding cats a little bit, but getting players to go and be active and engaging with the world is kind of an interesting concept to me. I just, as one person said, I didn't put any pepperoni on the pizza, is really what it boiled down to. So that was my post-mortem of my Delta Green game. But we can talk about pepperoni and pizzas and sandboxes later.
The other funny part is Delta Green is designed to start a little later, where you're being assigned jobs right away to avoid that sort of behavior. So it's kind of funny that it was Delta Green game that you had that problem with, because the design principle of Delta Green is you're already getting a mission.
You've been called into the office.
Yeah.
I'm
United the Opera.
I'm a veteran dungeon master, and I got to be this way because I fucked up a whole bunch on the way there. thinking I knew it better, and obviously,
at least you weren't afraid to fail.
Exactly,
which can be
and
another,
you will make
which can be another sign of burnout.
Yeah, you will make mistakes in GMing. It's going to happen. Just try and make it fun. That's for everybody. Like I said, the biggest deal is just remember that it should be fun for you too, not just the players. It should be fun for everybody.
I think a lot of new DMs need that advice. I think that's.
I think a lot of DMs need that advice. Period. The only time that I would say it might be a little different is if somebody's paying you. Like if you're a professional GM, and it's your job, you're taking on a little bit of different.
Well, you have to.
It's a little bit of different. But you should always look at it. I think you should look at a gaming table as the people that you're playing with, both the GM and the players, are audience, not just participants. So them being the audience means that it has to kind of be entertaining for everybody. That's why it's important, if there's a scene that makes somebody really uncomfortable, that you have something safe, like a card or something, to tell people, I don't like where this is going. We shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting, because I think we talked about most of the
fair Verona clause, if you will.
What?
The fair Verona clause, if you will.
Okay.
If anybody wants to look it up on the internet, you can. We don't need to go into it here. But that's it's about having a warning during the middle of your game if something is making you uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that's something that's probably a different topic that can be broached. And if anybody's interested, it is at least a fascinating story from a rise and fall perspective, if you want to see the fall of the Roman Empire, effectively.
Well, it's also a fascinating story that kind of gives the importance of safety tools, which I know is a hot topic. Some people don't think you need them. But I think
I think you do.
if you're going to do certain types of games or have certain types of content in your games, you definitely should,
Make
because
sure everyone's at least aware that that's coming.
and that everyone
Yeah,
is aware.
you may be super into it, but the people who
Mhm.
aren't, like, you're just exacerbating the negatives of their experience, and you're making them not want to come to the next game. You
Correct.
know, you're causing somebody to have burnout in that case
Mhm.
to a degree,
Yeah.
and worse, and worse. Sorry, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
trivialize it. The situation was horrible.
Yeah. No, it is true. Um, I think, and so kind of the last area that we had in regards to what they said were like some of the reasons for burnout was either insufficient reward. Basically, you don't get a reward for doing all the work, and so you kind of feel less motivated to do it. Like, why do I bother becomes the question that you have there. And I think if you have I don't really personally feel like I've come to the table and like players have been so super prepared and engaged with my world that, you know, that I've been like, oh man, they're just soaking this all up. It's amazing. I feel like there's a certain level of unpreparedness that every table experiences. I
Sure.
think I think the question is that you'd have to determine for yourself what level you're comfortable with, because a lot of times as the GM, and we've said this in other videos, is you're going to have to teach people how to play, especially if it's a new system or they're new players. You're going to have to help them along. You can offload some of this stuff and we can talk about solutions to some of this in a little bit, but really, you know, you get to decide how much you're okay with that, you
And
know.
and it also comes down to what I already talked about, where you need to be entertained too. Because if you're having
Mhm.
fun, you're gonna find that's gonna be your reward if you are having that fun, that hit of
Mhm.
oxytocin while you're running a game or making people laugh or whatever. That's gonna be what makes the game for you. So try and do things that you enjoy. Like if you enjoy world building, build that world as detailed as you want, but realize, you know, you're having fun on the back end and they might not interact with as much of it as you want them to, and that can be hard. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna play with your toy differently than you think they will.
it's
Mhm.
important to remember they're all everyone at the table is an individual, and so they're going to do individual things
Sure.
Yep.
for their own enjoyment. So that might not include some of the things that you have planned.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
do want
it's
to
true.
remind players that you should regularly thank your dungeon master. They're putting in a lot of work. It's a lot that you don't see. And as somebody who's done both and prefers to be a player, you thank them
Or run a
because
game once in a while. Run a
without
game for
or
them
run a
once in a
game once
while.
in a while. Yeah, let them play.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
it's
suggest,
true.
because being a forever GM can be that can be hard.
It can be tough
Uh,
on your emotional, it can be tough on your creativity too, because you forget what it's like on the other side of the aisle. I mean, some people can
it's a
do
good
it.
habit too. It's a good habit where you can see what it's like being a player. I have some bad player habits. Boy, do I. Um, uh, but you can recognize that and kind of work around them, and it'll make you a better GM. You'll
Yeah,
be a better player by GMing, and you'll be a better GM by playing.
exactly. And even the big names, you know, I think Matt Mercer even moved over to the player's seat for this last season of whatever, a Critical Role or something. So it's good for everybody, you know. And I even think that he talked about how overwhelming it was to try to run a high production show, and not everyone's trying to achieve that level of production in their gaming and stuff like that. But you know, just because it's a hobby, just because it's fun, doesn't make it immune to the pressure that you feel at that.
Sure.
Uh, and that, I think that brings it to the last item that he really talked about was work life balance. I know that that's such an overused phrase. Everyone says work life balance, work life balance. But it is true that people can definitely stack their calendar with too many obligations, and you can obviously, instead of getting them all done well, let's say rise to the occasion, because there's always that like, oh, I rose to the occasion and I'm so good, and then you're the other friend who didn't, and you just feel like shit about not getting anything done well, or getting it all, or just kind of getting paralyzed and not being able to do your gaming or whatever it may be. And you kind of avoid what you're doing, kind of that procrastinator thing I was talking about when I run into it. um, you know, and that's just, I think that's a common thing for you. If you're doing too much, you can find yourself tired, exhausted, anxious, and just bad at everything, and then
Yeah.
it sucks.
Well, again, you have to work, so you have to do
Mhm.
your job, your day job, and
Well,
taking on
you
another
you
more
there
work
is
is
another
sometimes hard.
solution. It's just most people don't take it, which is find a different job.
Right, but I mean, you're gonna have to work
Yeah.
regardless of what. So if
Mhm.
you have to keep that in mind that you gotta do
Sure.
that. You have to make money to survive. Like we don't
Yeah.
want to get into the politics of that, but you have to make money to survive. So you have to kind of take into the fact of like if you're working 80 hours a week,
Mhm.
you have to take into consideration, do I have time to run a game, or
That's a
do I
good
have a
point.
mental point to run a game? And here's what kind of I've talked a lot this episode, but here's kind of what I would say about
That's the
burnout
point.
is what I think you need to consider every time is GMing is work. Like you have to put work into GMing, but when it starts to feel like a job, like something you have to do, you should take a moment to kind of think about that, because it's sort of like I always talk about. I used to play WoW, and I was talking. They were talking about raiding and WoW, and the game was fun, but the moment it became like a job where I had to show up and work 8 hours and raid for 8 hours and 2 days a week or like and schedule it, it stopped being
Mhm.
fun because it started being a job. It wasn't work anymore. It was just a job. Because work you can enjoy, but a job is something that has commitments that you're stressed about. You can get
Mhm.
stressed
Okay.
about.
Yeah,
So work is something you can enjoy. A job isn't always your favorite.
it's true. You know,
Sure.
if you love your job, you don't work a day in your life or something like that. Is that what they say on Letterkenny when they were?
That is the
That's
saying,
what
I
that,
believe.
that is the saying.
And I don't
Yeah,
totally agree with that, but that is the saying, yes.
it's true though. But I mean, it's hard when when you say those kind of things, because I feel like a lot of people go to these things because it's low stakes. But I think, from a player perspective, your low stakes is like, oh, I just had fun for the evening. But as a GM, your stakes are maybe like, oh, nobody had fun and everybody now hates me, and you got doom
Right. That's a
spiral.
feeling, but
And
that's
now instead of the 8
Yeah.
hours of work I put in last week, I got to put in 16.
the other
Hmm.
thing I would encourage GMs is if they had fun, you did your job. And they
Mhm.
probably had fun because they showed up knowing they were going to get a play. And they probably wanted to play, so they probably had fun. That's what you have to
Hmm.
remember is you're not making them be there. They don't have to come.
We're
Uh,
playing games, and games
yeah,
should be
exactly.
fun.
Hmm.
They should be fun
Yep.
on the whole.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could, if you guys want, we could talk about archetypes. I think archetypes is kind of interesting because people like to categorize themselves and all of those. But I think I'm not sure archetypes are necessary, because I think that, in terms of like where burnout comes from, almost creates the archetype that you are. Like if you're an over prepper, it's because you work too hard. If you're a reluctant storyteller, you're like a person who's playing a game you don't want to play, but you're just doing it out of obligation to your friends or
Yeah,
something like that.
you're a forever GM, and all you get
Hmm.
to do is GM, and you're tired of GMing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep. Um, and so I was just curious. Do you guys have any archetypes? I mean, those are two I just kind of threw out there, but somebody, a type of person that somebody could relate to talk about this. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's sure. There's a few
I,
more out
I
there.
think if you're not, I mean, it kind of ties into the having fun, but I think if it starts to feel thankless, like you're not feeling any appreciation from anybody, the players don't seem to do anything. They're not giving you any feedback. They're don't seem to be, coming to the session excited or leaving the session with a smile on their face. I think that can grind you down over time. And
Make
again, I
make
think the
make
solution
them
is to communicate and talk about
make them
it.
give you feedback. Ask at the
Yes,
end
there
of
we
the
go.
game. Say, hey, does anybody have any suggestions for the game? Did you guys have fun? Because they'll usually, again, they want to be there because they decided to show up every week. They will
If they're
probably
showing
tell
up, they
you.
want to play.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing that GMs need to realize, that it's that imposter syndrome a little bit. Like if they're showing up, and I'm not talking about like canceling once a week because they had a surprise come up or
Right.
they almost died or whatever. It's more about like if if they cancel every week, it can get tough. You can feel like there's a reason they're not showing up. Remember, life happens. It doesn't have to do with you. It's hard as a
Hmm.
GM, but you have to remember it's probably not your game. If they disappear, well, maybe the game wasn't for them.
Yeah, because people are conflict averse,
Mhm.
so there's a little bit of that. And I have to say that sometimes you can run into things where, like your friends may want to spare your feelings, it feels like. So you can actually create a narrative in your head that you're like, even though you're saying you're having fun, I don't know if you're actually having fun.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
what I'm saying. You have to believe them when you're asking them questions. Like, you have to believe that they would tell you, because if you
Yeah.
don't, it's really easy to get in that echo chamber in your head and just feel like you're failing constantly.
It feels like we need to have one of
Um,
those team meetings where we talk about how you give feedback in a
Yeah.
in a way that doesn't tear down the person receiving the feedback.
Actually, ask is a team meeting thing. Like, if you
It is.
like, ask for feedback, because
Uh-huh.
if they have problems, they'll probably tell you. I know they're conflict averse, but if they really have a problem, they will tell you.
If they feel that you're sincere, somebody will eventually give you something, and if they
Yeah.
feel that something changes as a result of that feedback,
And even if they
then they'll
don't give it
be
to
more
you face
comfortable
to
giving it.
face, even they don't give you face to face, they may give you they'll remember you asked, and they will maybe give you feedback after.
Yeah.
After they'll send you a text or they'll send you an email saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
this comes up in the game. I would like to change how this is going," or whatever, and it'll give
Right.
you an idea of what
Yeah,
they want. Or, I thought the game would be different. Or
Make the feedback specific and about the thing that's bothering you, not about the person who's responsible for doing it. The
Mhm.
second that you make it personal, then it becomes
And-
a thing between
people
two
get
people.
defensive. Yeah,
Yeah,
people get
everybody gets defensive. Nobody wants to be attacked.
right.
So yeah,
When you're
and I
supposed to be
think
having fun with your friends.
it's true. It's true.
Play
And
pretend with your friends. Have fun.
it's
Make
it's
sure
actually
you as
harder
the
than you think.
and make sure you as the GM are having fun too. It's an
Yes.
important distinction to remember.
They are playing too. They are just playing it slightly differently than the players are.
Mhm. Well, and what's interesting is that back when we were working in our corporate life together, there was, you talked about that asked thing, and I think if you want to frame it in a way, you can easily frame it in a way that helps you spare your own feedback. I think one of my favorite questions is, it doesn't really put any blame anywhere. Typically, it's just like, hey, what's one thing you'd like to see more of in our games? Is there any,
That's a good
what would
one.
you like to see more of? And so they're like, I'd like to see more social interactions, because maybe every session all we do is combat. Like, they're not gonna, you don't have to take it negatively. You'd be like, okay, well, that they would feel maybe more engaged if they had more social dynamics and stuff. And it doesn't really, you don't really have to take that as like. Now, what you can easily do is be like, I give you enough social things. And so if you don't come with an open mind, then you're already doomed from the start. But like, if they're asking you, if you're like, I'd like to do more social stuff, ask yourself, okay, well, what did I do?
Oh, yeah. What I like to do is start general until I think there's a problem. Like, I think those
Mhm.
people aren't. And then it's pose a question to the group. Even if you think one person has a problem, you can pose a question to the group of, hey, what is something that everybody likes during the game? And like, don't
Mhm.
call anybody out. Just kind of say it in
Right.
general. And people might give you feedback, or like I said, they might give you feedback later when they can do it, stealthily. That sort of thing. Like, take the feedback how you can get it, because it's hard to get feedback as a GM.
It is. And I think when you ask stuff like what people want to do, I feel like personally that's something that it resonates with people, because it's just like, hey, what would you like to do more of? And they're like, I would like to, like, because it's like, aha,
Yeah.
And if they like what they're doing, then a lot of people are like, I like how it's going right now. And you have to be okay, and you can be okay with that, because that should give you a little bit of, assurance that you're on the right track.
No, that's a good one.
And so I think, kind of speaking of other solutions, though, the article does talk about taking breaks, sharing responsibilities, reconnecting with what you love, and I think it's kind of good to poke at those things, because the solutions we provided were, like if you're talking just directly with your players, because sometimes, I mean, sure, it could be that the players are the reason why you're burned out in your game, and you just might need new players.
Chances are that's not the reason that you burned out on your game. Chances are there's a lot of other problems.
I mean,
If you're going, God, I hate these people I play with, you probably should just get a different gaming group.
Well, but there's a lot of people that start their games online. Like they get a Discord group together or something like that, and so there's a likelihood that you just didn't get the right chemistry of people, and that can be hard with internet strangers. And so,
But you know what's good about internet strangers? It's easy to say I'm not coming anymore.
Boot you from my Discord server. See you later,
I had
alligator.
fun
I
while
think
it
that's what he
lasted.
said.
but it
It's
broke.
easy to say, "Hey guys, this isn't happening anymore."
Hey
Yeah.
guys, it's not you, it's me.
If they pay you, it's different. But if they, but even
Paid
then,
is always
like,
different.
paid is always different. But hey, if you want to
Mhm.
stab Bob in the face every game session, you should probably maybe not have him in your games or move games. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. The truth is, and I know people hate to hear this, but the truth is you're not going to get along with everybody.
Well,
You just
I do.
hope that you have. You just hope. I certainly have not gotten along with everybody, and I mean some of the people that who've worked for me, I haven't gotten along with. So you're not going to work for everybody. That doesn't mean you're not going to get along with everybody. That doesn't mean you can't work with them. It
Mhm.
just means that they're probably going to do things not the way that you would do them, which can
Mhm.
get on your nerves. And in a situation where something is voluntary for everybody's enjoyment, you
Mhm.
have to recognize those situations and communicate and rectify them. You can't
Yeah.
let them fester. You can't let them you can't let the spike get closer and closer to your face until something like penetrates your skin. You have to do it early or it's going to hurt a lot more in the long run.
Yeah. So it kind of the same vein, the taking breaks component of what he says. I'm actually curious because if you're having a hard time with your group, sometimes it might be that you just need to take a break and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel like taking a break as a solution kills the momentum in the game, or do you think that you could easily come back to a game? Because I mean, what I've
It
heard is that
can.
some people play once a month and they're okay with that, and it's like, wow,
I
one.
think that's an expectations thing. I think if
Sure.
you get used to running a game, if you get used to playing a game once a month, I think you're prepared for that sort of mindset. So I feel
Mhm.
like as a player, if I knew I was going to play a game once a month, I feel like as a player, I would be more diligent at trying to remember what we were doing. Versus if you think we're going to play once a week and then like something happens, like you're
Mhm.
not as diligent and it's easier to forget because you're assuming you're going
Right.
to have the next session to remind you of the previous session.
Mhm.
But yes, it can derail it, but it's more like if it's sudden than if it's planned. It's more like, oh, we haven't played in a month
Yeah.
because no one could
No,
Yeah.
versus this is our once a month game.
Because even with our games, I feel like even though we play a couple times a week, between our what we do here and what we do with our home game and other tables and stuff like that. So there's definitely, we definitely play a lot, I'd say, and I feel like that's probably higher than average, which is
We
it's
do
just our hobby.
short sessions,
But we
though.
do short sessions. We don't do the 1 8-hour session or the 6-hour session on a Friday night. I don't know if I have the stamina to do a 6-hour role playing session on a day. I could try. Maybe I'm getting old or whatever it is. My back would be thrown out. But I do know that even
From
though
all
we
the
play,
heavy lifting of carrying the game. Is that what you're saying?
that was subtle, Mike. That was subtle.
Oh, my back goes out from carrying you guys
If
the
only you
entire
guys were
game.
doing more.
okay, maybe that's not how I intended it to come out, but you take it as you will. How about that, assholes? But I think that because even recently with the holidays are really good at derailing gaming
Oh God,
momentum,
yeah. They're
and
horrific.
so we were playing Last Flight of the Ghazali, and it was like all of a sudden it was just wee. I think we had a 4-week intermission all of a sudden, and for us that feels like forever.
Well, and I
It's a
think part
lot.
of that is also why we probably missed big sections of the game because there's things that we didn't remember. And again, that was more of an unexpected break due to life things than planning.
You didn't miss big sessions because of the break. I'll tell you that much.
I wasn't there for a lot of it, so
Yeah. No, all I'm saying is it was fine. Everything was fine. I enjoyed it. Had fun. We're going to go on to what was it called? Mercy of the Icons.
Yep.
Yes. Mercy of the Icons. That's going to be our next foray
the
into
the plaintive, the endlessly frustrated. It was fine. 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 They did a thing. It was okay. It was fine. It was fine. I'm not bothered by it at all. It was fine.
it's just more funny. I was just like, it's like there's only really two places. Yep, they went there. Okay.
Oh, they're obsessed with the painting. That's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
They're not looking for the lost child at all. They're just obsessed with the painting. Okay, cool.
The child's obviously in the painting.
That's what they thought.
It had a child in it, okay?
Over the edge, I would
exactly
assume that
what
the
they
child
thought.
was somewhere in the painting.
That is exactly what happened.
And if
Yeah,
I stared
you're
at it
correct.
long enough, I could fall into it.
And there was a whole gaming session where they sat in the living room staring at the painting with a Geiger counter. Yep, just like that. Mhm. I can't see the
Well, you can't
schooner.
blink. Brent, if you blink, it resets the counter.
Yeah. I can't see the sailboat. Yeah.
Schooner's a sailboat.
Sailboat. Mallrats. I love that.
If you're old enough to get that joke, I appreciate you. I just want everybody to know that.
That's true. And isn't the guy who was doing that, like, didn't he work out and get he changed his body shape
He's
considerably?
incredibly fit now, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. So one thing I did want to point out that he did say sharing responsibilities, like having players do stuff. I don't think that's necessarily a new tactic or anything like that.
No,
But basically finding a way to offload your work as a GM somewhere.
I think there are some GMs that are reluctant, just like there are some bosses that are reluctant to delegate.
I'm bad at it.
Some people are bad at it, but some people actively avoid it because they think they're going to lose some sort of control. And I'm not.
Oh, you mean as a GM? No,
As a
I'm not
GM.
bad at that. I mean, as a player, I'm bad at contributing. I'm bad at GM offload because I don't want to do anything when I'm a player sometimes. But I think what happens is if you're a GM a lot, like it's not you do that as a defense mechanism because it's like, oh, this is me taking a break because it's not as much work.
Well, and I think that there's a part of me that looks at that saying like, well, I just want to make sure everybody's engaged, like engaged with the story. And I know that there are games that are like, okay, well, when you guys are talking about player roles, somebody should be the note taker, somebody should be the cartographer, somebody should manage inventory, and
I'm the designated crier.
Oh, you just go around telling everybody what the party's done. Hear ye,
weeping,
hear ye.
weeping, as in weeping, not as in town crier.
We have bested this dungeon and gained fat loots.
I just cry constantly during all of our games. I'm kidding.
And if you'd like to play one of our games, you too can see Brent
uncontrollably sobbing with the mic muted.
Just what is that YouTube theme going around right now? Is everyone's fake laughing? You just kind of turn your head and you're whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm kidding, by the way. And if anybody does do that on their games, you should probably get a different game.
That's probably true. Not to minimize your experience.
Exactly.
But yeah, you definitely should. And so
unless it's part of the story, like it's an intense emotional thing. But if it's just anyways, was changing subjects quickly, moving quickly away from that.
Moving along. I think Brent
quickly
actually,
over the landmine.
I think Brent actually shared a really good thing at the opening of this, and I think it probably deserves a little bit of extra attention, just because I think people tend to like overdevelop. And I'm guilty of that because I try to at least have thought of all the stuff that you guys as players can do. And that can be exhausting from a GM perspective, where you want to balance maybe a plot that you've got going on. You want this plot to kind of advance in a certain way or something like that. And I think that it's, when you say like, well, I only really develop stuff as it's necessary for it. Well, I think the same can be said about plotting. Is if you design your session about like just knowing that your players are a little loosey-goosey with how they advance through your story.
Not going to follow it is what he means.
Just maybe narrow your scope.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, I have 30 objectives for them to accomplish before we get to next week. Say there's just one big thing that I'd like to see happen. One big thing. And hopefully you don't railroad them into that one big thing.
You mean like save the island? We didn't do that very well in our basin game.
Brent, the message I got was save the cheerleader, save the world.
Yeah,
we saved the girl.
I agree.
Everything was fine.
It's just stuff. It's really what it boiled down to.
And that's a good example of a game where like getting feedback is important because our GM at the time thought he had failed at the game because we didn't complete the objective, or he had failed at the game because we didn't complete the objective that he thought.
We didn't
But
think we were going to solve anything, and we
but
saved the girl.
we felt like we won. We felt fantastic because we saved the girl, which wasn't the overall thing that we were supposed to be doing, but we felt magnificent after that game.
Well, there were some other things that were part of it. You know,
No,
I mean,
save the girl. Save the girl was the part
as a party,
for
we
us.
felt we did. Brent's right.
Yeah,
we
we
felt
felt
like
super
we
good.
had done that. We had salvaged. We had made chicken salad out of chicken poop. We really did. We were happy as clams, and we were getting out of there alive, and the
We were
girl was
like, the
alive, and the
town's
village
sinking, and
wasn't
we're like,
destroyed.
so
Everything was good.
It's true. It's true. God.
I know it's still
I still
there in the back
remember
of
it.
your head, Mike. We can tell.
Well,
yeah,
It's
I still
that's an
remember
example
it
of
as
your
being
players not just not.
It's just that was again an example of how you can get inside your own head and you can do more damage than good. So
investigation games are hard, man. I'm sorry. As a player, investigation games are hard.
I think they can be.
You saved the
I
girl,
want
that's
to
all
be
that
better
matters.
at them because they're such an interesting.
They are fun. They can be really fun. But
what
I
you have
think
to
they're
remember
hard. We got to
is
get better at them. We need to play more.
Well, let me just put it this way. I won't generalize for everybody. I'll say what Mike needs to remember is when we're doing a mystery and we're the players, we turn into mouth breathing morons. I become the dumbest person on the planet.
Puzzle. A free hotel at a luxury resort. We're in this pub, and I don't know. They have bed bugs, but we're here, so we should just stay here chairs.
We should just stay here. You don't want to go to the free luxury hotel? No.
Super suspicious.
You don't want to
really,
go to
now that I
the
look
plot
at
device location? No, we're good.
That was also an excellent game. That was the Hell Pig game, and that was super fun.
It was good.
I thought the Hell Pig game was a lot of fun.
We saw some footprints in the snow. Those are squirrels. I'm not sure that those are squirrels. I need to investigate
the squirrels into the trees. I think that's how my character ended up in the tree, isn't it?
What?
Remember my character hitting a tree from the Hell Pig at one point?
Mm-hmm.
I think he was following squirrel footprints is how he got up in the tree.
Well, I think one of my favorite parts is I like how I don't remember what I said, but I remember all of you had this aha moment, and I could tell I was like, that was the wrong aha. That was the wrong aha. Did I misstate something? What is happening here? And you guys are like, pitchforks, no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how it works. That's how the painting works.
When you feel like you're
painting, I made that painting way too much interesting for just set dressing. That was the realization I had. Oh, I made that painting way too interesting.
He flashes a painting at us, and he's like, "It looks like this," and
well,
we're like,
I just meant it to be a weird thing that happens every day, and it changed every day. Like there's all sorts of stuff that happened in this apartment that they were given so they could do their investigation. Whereas like if anything was left out or dirty, like it showed up magically clean the next day. The painting changed, like the picture on the painting changed every day. But like it was a weird thing amongst all these other weird things, and they were
still
like
supposed to find
weird
the girl.
thing. Yeah, and they felt like that weird thing became the focus of everything for several sessions.
Well, if it wouldn't have had a child in it, we probably wouldn't have paid it as much heed. But you chose a child. And a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, I think.
I did choose a child the first day. No, he had a bag on his head the first day.
On the investigation games, on the Vason game, Mike, when we grabbed the wrong thing, I think we were struggling to solve anything, and our rolls weren't great. That when we felt that we had something, we had to run with it. Because I just like how quickly the pitchforks came out. And we found a cracker, and we're like, we're going to solve this. We're coming back,
boys.
Brink.
Yeah, get them, boys. Looks like meat's on the menu, boys.
Definitely felt that way. So I guess, do you guys have any? I think as we're looking right now, we're kind of getting to the end of the episode, and of course, we appreciate everybody.
And we've meandered a bit.
We're starting on the tangents. So, any last minute stuff that you might recommend to people to say, hey, if you're feeling like you might just want a tip for your next session, this is what I suggest. What do you
What
got?
I would remind everybody is what I've said a couple times already. Remember that you as the GM should be entertained as much as the players.
Mhm.
Regard if they're not following your plot or whatever, you should at least enjoy what's happening. If they throw a wrench in your plans, try and enjoy the madness that's about to ensue as you make
Mhm.
stuff up for however many minutes more that you're playing. But try and focus on you having fun with the players because as a GM, it's not a job. It's it's a hobby. It's a entertainment, and you should be as entertained as the players. You've
Yeah.
decided to take on more work than the players, and they will not do homework. Y- but you should be having fun too.
Mhm.
And the other thing I would say is like about the world building thing is if you enjoy world building, you should do all of the world building you want, but only do it to the point that you're willing to say, what if they don't interact with this at all? Because the moment that you have planned a ton, like you put sunk so much work in it and they aren't that interested, you're going to feel bad. So that's you should keep that in mind because your interests are not everybody's interests.
Mhm.
So
It's
the
true.
rich detailed lore of your Xanadu, your world might not appeal to the characters as much.
Or even see the light of day.
Yeah, or see the light of day. You might have that player character that's like, and then some player characters are going to be like, well, would I know this? And then when you really think about it, you're like, well, no, they're probably not going to know the infrastructure of the continent two seas away. That might not be a thing that they know. And you're like, why did I write that? Just remember that try and stick to the things that the characters are gonna interact with. That'll make a take a load off of you a little bit.
Mhm.
Those are my
I
two things.
I would say that if you're not having fun playing the games that you're playing with your friends, you should try to figure out why. That probably involves talking to somebody. You can do it yourself. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to self identify. Put your finger on what exactly is causing you to not have fun at
Mhm.
these sessions. But you should talk to people. Most people are going to be pretty flexible. I'm sure that there are people out there that will prove to be the exception to that rule. But
And
my experience
remember
is
the players want to be there.
yeah, players want to be there.
Yeah,
So
it's all
talk to
voluntary.
them. Ask them the generic questions work great. You
Mhm.
finish a story arc. What about what was your favorite part of that story arc? You know, you don't even have to focus on the negative. You'll start to figure out what the players like. But you need to figure out what's not working for you
Yeah.
and do something to change that. Because to tie back into what Brent said, everybody at the table should be having fun.
Mhm.
And remember, it's work, but it's not your job unless you're being paid for it. Which is a thing now, which isn't a saying that I had to do, say, like 10 years ago, but it's a thing now. Um, but yeah, like just remember, people want to be there or they wouldn't be.
Mhm.
And like you have to take that as kind of you're doing something right if people are there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
if you say I want to run this game, do you want to play this game with me? And people say yes, you have done right as a GM
Yeah.
historically. So you should take that as a little bit of recognition. So I'm telling you good job. If no one else does, I'm telling you good job at running a game.
That's fair. Well, uh, I feel like the having fun part of it is important, and I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction because I feel like a lot of people put pressure on themselves that if stuff
Mhm.
isn't going the way you want it to go mid session, sometimes you feel this absolute need to always respond immediately. And I think that that's a flaw that we have in every part of our life when we're better just taking a step back and thinking about it for a minute, we don't. The same thing with GMing. If your players present you with a scenario, an item, or something like that, an idea that doesn't fit, you don't feel like you have to be on the spot to say like, oh, well, everyone else can just react so amazingly to this stuff. I'll do the same thing. Take a second. Take a few minutes, take a quick pee break or something. Who cares? Go get some chips. Be like, just a second. I'm gonna chew these Doritos while I think about what you just implied there. And then come back after you've had a moment to think about it. And if you happen to be at the end of the evening and it's a really good question that could be spared for a week.
Mhm.
End the
Yeah,
session there, you know?
yeah. Don't be
Like,
afraid. Yeah, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to say, "Wow, that wasn't a choice I was expecting. I'm gonna need a few days to figure that out."
yep.
Don't be afraid to take the time you need to come up with something. I
Mhm,
know it's hard to do, like, you feel a little bit of pressure, but
mhm,
the end result will be better for everybody if you need to think about it, you take the
yeah.
time.
And you may get better at the skill of just being able to respond on the spot to whatever players present to you, and that's obviously a technique you build over time as a GM. But just take a moment. If you're like, oh my god, they asked a question, this is going to totally like break my game. Like, what happens when they throw that whatever spike at the vampire at the first interaction with the big bad guy, and they roll a 20 and it stakes him right in the heart, and I need a moment. I need a moment.
Oh, you figured it out.
Ah! just take a second. That's all I can say. And I think that with that we could probably close her out.
Okay.
Um, Burnout happens, because we care about the games that we have. It's usually because you're pushing too hard on it. And I'd say that with creative burnout, especially, it's like sometimes you don't know the source of it, and sometimes you just need to give yourself that blank space because it is creative work. It's emotional, and there's a lot that goes into it. And if you're not giving yourself that time by pulling back and giving your brain a little bit of peace, you may find yourself in that whole Sisyphus thing. You're like, every week is just another.
Pushing
I
that rock
tried
up the
so
hill.
hard. I tried so hard, and the rocket just fell right back down. And I'm doing it all over again. And if you don't change anything, that's all it's going to keep happening every week until you end up in a very bad place. So, but if you find out what makes you happy, you focus on it, you get yourself in that right headspace. I truly think that TTRPGs are one of the coolest hobbies out there. So,
It's a good way to hang out with your friends.
Yep.
mhm, yeah. So, regardless of what you do, you know, have fun. So, Jeff, if people want to share their stories of burnout, what they've done to overcome them, and all that stuff, they can obviously jump in the comments. But where else can they go to communicate with Brent and us?
Yeah, you can find us on most social media platforms at Rollwise. If we're not there, leave us a
Mhm.
comment and tell us why we should be on there, except for TikTok. Brent refuses to do TikTok. You can
Not
also email us,
not doing dance
rollwiseguys
videos on
at
TikTok.
gmail.com. No, Mike's responsible for the dance videos.
I could bust one out right now, but I'm not going to.
Save it for the shorts.
Yeah, they'd be very short. And Brent, with that, can you send us some to the wild blue
Yep.
yonder?
And as always, roll well and roll wise and be safe out there. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.